Welcome to our first episode of, let's just call it just chatting over tea. I'm drinking a peach Tranquility tea. I'm here actually with my good high school friend Alvin Lau. He's drinking coffee.
Yeah, Starbucks.
Yeah. Anyways, so we are here to this podcast show is mainly talking. We're mainly talking about mental health, spirituality, meditation, life's purpose, life's meaning, all that good stuff. And that's what we're going to be covering today. And specifically, actually, Alvin and I had a chat earlier, and he just completed a 10-day Vipassana course. So we're going to go over that too. We're going to talk about that. And here we actually are pretty kind of free flow. We, unfiltered. Just whatever comes up in our mind, we go ahead and speak it. No restrictions here. So, yeah. Before we get into all his experience with, his spiritual journey, let's have Alvin kind of talk a little bit about his background.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. Just growing up as kind of like an Asian kid in the San Francisco Bay Area. I think everyone, it doesn't really matter where you're growing up from, you start trying to figure out, like, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to operate in this world? What are the rules to do it safely or whatnot, and where do you get them from your parents? But, maybe deep down inside you, there's questions about, like, oh, is this the only way, or is what my parents telling me the right way? And as you get older and you have external experiences outside of your family, you begin to question whether the way that your parents taught you how to operate in the world, if it truly is the right way, or is there a different way? And when you go out there, outside of that sandbox your parents built for you, and you experience other stuff, and there is a lot more out there that, hey, there is a different way to do things, but again, you question yourself, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? That, to me, growing up in the Bay Area, led me towards, like, spiritual questions that got me into kind of like the spiritual search for myself. I've always had that. But yeah, so I can't spiritual search going to Christian or going to church in high school, and I'm wondering if that's the right thing, and then kind of dabbing in like Buddhism and spirituality, like maybe towards the late 20s into early 30s, and then that kind of led me to going to the Vipassana course just this last 10 days, and yeah, so now we're here.
Yeah, I'd love to sort of dive right into that, because we had a long conversation earlier in the afternoon about it. And I guess first start off is how was your time there? Like, what, what's the process like?
It was, now that I'm done with it, it was a really good, like, really, I felt like a very meaningful experience in terms of meditation relative to, as like a little bit more backwards backstory context. I've done meditation apps and things like that, like Sam Harris's, was it Wake Up? I forgot what I forgot the name. It's a Sam Harris app. Yeah.
Okay, probably Wake Up. Yeah.
But actually, yeah, my whole start on meditation and everything. Now I'm 36, but back when I was 29 in 1913 or 2013 or something around there, I started dabbing a little bit more into meditation, trying different stuff. And
was there like a turning point on why you decided to get into that?
Yeah, just I had a relationship that breakup that really kind of like threw me just kind of like my life in a different direction, kind of like on a complete tangent course. And you're on the path of like, oh, you're in your 20s and you're getting a decent job and you're starting to save up so you can have that supposed typical life of save up so you can get married, buy a house, save up 401k, and then pump out a couple kids and save up for retirement, go on a couple vacations, just have a decent life.
Basically the American dream.
Yeah, and that's I guess what everyone's trying to figure out, what the meaning of success or what the measure of success is, and like I don't know, but that's what everyone's talking about, and that's what everyone seems to be working towards. So maybe that's probably it. So I was on that path up until 29, I thought, but then I had a pretty bad breakup for myself, relationship that put me in a mental tailspin that I think was a good. It was good in the sense that it pumped the brakes on my life to really kind of make me slow down and think like, is this the direction I want to go? Mm-hmm. Is the career path I'm taking in business development, sales, the direction I want to go? And when I realized that it wasn't quite, especially in like the mobile gaming space and things like that, where it's like, I'm not really crazy about games anymore. But if I'm not crazy about games, then I don't care about advertising. Actually, deep down in my heart, I actually kind of hate advertising. But I'm in it. Why? So that I can earn money. So that I can get the 401k, so I can buy the car and
buy the house,
get a Tesla or whatever the hell it is, and have all the shiny objects to show that I have reached a certain level of success. And when all of that kind of went down the drain with the breakup, that's when the whole kind of void opened up in my heart of like, dude, what's the meaning of life? And when that happened, I literally got depressed and anxious and stuff like, well, if I haven't figured that out, man, depression because regret of the past. I walked the wrong path. Anxiety because, well, now that I walked the wrong path, what the hell is the future path supposed to be? When I got to that point, that's when the whole spiritual search, like, oh, what's the meaning of life, came about. And I started researching into Buddhism and things like that. And really, actually, 29, I started like reaching into, like reading up on like, oh, who are like Asian American figures or guys that are like really strong-willed individuals that kind of like have a good, seem like they actually have a little bit of spiritual backing, and they're like really like, seems like they have a strong foundation and direction with who they are and are secure in understanding who they are. And I was like, well, a guy like Bruce Lee,
of course.
Okay, well, Bruce Lee is into Taoism and Confucianism, Eastern spirituality and philosophy, like Alan Watts and Jiddu Krishnamurti, and even like probably dabbing in Buddhism and things like that. And so that's kind of what got me on like, oh, well, I like Bruce Lee and I want to be a strong kick kung fu dude or whatever. But like, yeah, because like everyone looks up to him. He's an Asian dude, but at the same time, no one really looks at him like a weakling.
Yeah.
They're like, he can kick your ass.
Yeah.
And he has a strong, internal, it seems like he has a strong internal compass. So reading up more on him and his background, and then understanding who and what sets his spiritual basis, got me into Eastern spirituality, Buddhism, and ultimately, because Buddhism's foundation is about meditation, that led me on the path of wanting to find out how meditation can help me figure out life's purpose and direction.
And then that's how to something deeper, like which is the Vipassana meditation, because that's a little different, right?
Vipassana meditation, based off my understanding after having taken the course, the teachers, this gentleman by, I think it was like S.N. Goenka, out of Burma. I don't think he's alive anymore, but he was. There were a lot of video recordings that he taught. Like, I don't know, he already has like 200 plus campuses around the world and whatnot that his foundation started. But supposedly Vipassana is based off of the original technique that Buddha utilized during his meditation. But supposedly, and I might have my story wrong, but this is my understanding of it. All the other, Buddhist temples or different divisions of it that started spreading out through India, China, Taiwan, Japan, Korea, and all that stuff
Yeah.
began to start adding their own spins and their own rituals and things like that to this core technique, which I don't want to say that it's like polluting, but it's putting a spin on it that might draw it a little further away from the original technique, like adding like kind of like godly figures attached to it. Because at the end of the day, Buddha in its original form, from my understanding, is he's like, no, this is not about God. This is not necessarily about any you needing to believe in afterlife or anything like that. This is just purely based teaching on your experience with the world, and through your experience, getting closer to truth for yourself through your experience, and how through literally being alive and how to navigate using that truth to live a more harmonious life. And
well, even though they're putting in their own spin, but it's still maintaining or retaining the core foundation, right? Of
the core foundation, although I think some individuals, if they don't have a clear mind, they might latch on to certain parts of like the spin-off, I guess, one spin-off version of Buddhism where it's more ritual focused, and then they end up moving a little too far away from the original technique of the original type of meditation. Like, start doing like body movements and stuff like that, where maybe the original Buddhist or the original Vipassana meditation technique is just about focusing on your mind and your body, the interaction point between your mind and your body, which is your sensations and your mental reactions and interpretations of your body's sensations. That's the meeting point. That's how your mind understands or tries to interpret things, through explaining or reacting to sensations of your body.
Okay. And this course is specifically to steer you back into the original technique,
back to the original technique,
and practice it,
and in a way kind of drop off all the like ritual stuff that was added on, that genuinely, I think, in all these different Buddhist divisions, the following generations and then like all these different, I don't know, sects or whatever, sects or whatever you would call them, added on because they genuinely thought it was beneficial. It's not to say that they're not, but really sometimes when you want to go back to the basics, go back to the original root, and supposedly that's what Vipassana is.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you're there at the course, then what was it like? Let's just say a day to day.
The course on a day-to-day, so it was a 10-day course, and it just going in, just reading like some of the preliminary stuff, just knowing that it's going to be 10 days in kind of like a isolated bubble. You have the food prepared for you. You have your own kind of basic sleeping quarters, and you have kind of like a closed perimeter walking path in like kind of like a school ground. But you're closed off to the rest of the world. You have your cell phone taken away, any electronics, they're all removed. And it's actually even possibly beneficial. It would be beneficial for you to just not even have a watch, because when you have the perception of time, it also distorts or it may also distract from your meditation. So going in, I knew that I was just like removing all those things, and I know that my habit is like, oh man, binge watching YouTube, being on a computer, or always having ambient music in the background when I'm doing any sort of work. But to remove all of that, I knew there was going to be a bit of a shock factor and readjustment, and that was it. And it's basically just sitting down, multiple sessions, like long sessions, 1 hour a day, or 1 hour per session, or maybe even 1 to 2 hours per session, of just pure sitting meditation, of just noticing your breath, or noticing your mind's interaction with your body's sensations. Because when you're sitting at like for 1 to 2 hours at a time, after about the half-hour mark, your body starts wanting to readjust itself, and you'll start noticing pains in your body. And how does your mind react to those pains? Does it get angry? Does it get fidgety? Do you get like what happens? And that's the mind to body relationship experience that you become more aware of.
You mentioned to me earlier today that before each meditation session, or even every day, the instructor actually supposedly gives you like a sheet of instructions or directions on what to focus on or what to do.
It's not. Well, there's the initial, like even before the course, like once you enter, they give you like some basic ground rules about like what to like keep out of the meditation session. It's like just don't bring anything in there. Just bring your body. Go sit down on the pad. Try not to they'll give you pillows and like a little floor mat and whatnot. And like some people like add like, oh, I want to add 5 pillows on my pad, or I want to also add a wooden chair to make my sitting position optimal. And all these things. Yeah. But they'll let you do that, and people adjust each day has maybe 3 deep 1 hour no movement sessions, where you're just meditating on your cushion. So 3 times 10, so 30. And then and so each one of those you start modifying your cushion setup, your pillow setup, your wooden seat setup, all that stuff to get, if you want to say, your optimal setup. But over time you end up realizing whether or not that's necessary or effective, and you have to experience that through the analyzing or experiencing your mind-body relationship during that hour-long period, and the pains and sensations that come up. But the initial preliminary is they'll just give or Goenka, he has an audio clip where it just plays the first maybe 5 minutes, telling you, oh, for this session, focus on your breath and the triangle in your nose area. The top of your nose, to the left nose, to the right nose, and maybe your upper lip. The area above your upper lip where maybe your mustache is, if you have one, or females, that same section. And as you notice your breath and the sensations that you feel, maybe during that 1 hour period, you notice if you're sensing your breathing, and maybe you have nose hairs, and you notice the wheezing sound, or not the sound, but the feeling of the wind passing the hair follicles in your nose, or if you have a mustache and the air coming out of your nose in and out, like tickling your whiskers.
Wow.
Like those are the things that you focus on for that 1 full hour.
Like very detailed zoom in.
It's to really focus your mind into almost. It's basically training yourself to start utilizing your mind in a very focused surgical knife maneuver to start picking at detailed sensations.
I remember that actually just earlier today, once you finished the course and you stepped out of your car, you just told me like, oh man, that was brutal both
Yeah.
what physically and mentally, and then why is that for you? Why was it brutal?
It was brutal because up until, for the past 7 years, all the meditation that I even did in the past was all, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes max. Maybe even occasionally 30 minutes.
Mm.
But nothing hour long, nothing 2 hour long sessions. This is the first time ever going for that duration. And the reason why it's brutal is because in that duration of sitting, right after the 30-minute mark, your body starts reacting. Your body starts telling you, I don't like this. You start noticing those sensations where it's like, dude, my lower back's hurting. Man, that little itch that's on my leg, it's amplified now because it just because I lost time perception.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, like that, and not only that, but I'm losing sensation in my legs because
Yeah.
I'm sitting on it, and I think, oh, is the blood circulation coming off my leg? Am I going to get gangrene, or am I going to get, I don't know what the hell, and like, am I going to like lose permanent sensation in my leg because I keep sitting on it and I'm not paying attention or I'm not moving it? And you start questioning about like, oh yeah, am I going to lose my leg? And you start wanting to move.
Oh.
But the idea is ultimately that you try not to react. You try to let it be there and sit through it and be less reactive. The term is being to have equanimity or equanimous.
Okay. I mean,
to sensations.
It's just really just observing.
It's really observing
and then
not reacting.
Yeah, maybe analyze, whatever it is, and kind of just let it flow through, type of deal.
Yeah. So really, the whole painful shock and the brutal is because, in spite of the pain, you have to be calm and have kind of like a distanced awareness of it, like almost as if like you're a third person in the room, just observing without stepping in and making any changes to the situation.
Did you actually eventually found the pain to disappear? I mean,
it doesn't disappear. It's just like a volume switch. It's just it quiets down, but it's always in the background. But you become able to deal with it.
Okay, so the pain isn't just on your mind; it actually does exist, but
it's still there.
Okay.
But you don't. It's not amplified.
Oh,
it's like normally you like when you end up witnessing or you end up experiencing like I don't know, like a fly on your body or something like that. Then all of a sudden you get that reaction of like, oh, a fly is dirty.
Yeah, kind of twitch.
And like all these thoughts. I mean, is a fly really dirty?
Yeah.
It's all subjective.
Sure.
And then like if you think, oh, it's dirty, or like, oh, there's a bee that's flying near my head
it's gonna
sting me.
Yeah.
These are all thoughts.
Yes.
It's not that the bee is actually going to sting you.
Yeah.
But your snap reaction is it has a stinger and it's getting really close to either my face or my leg or something like that. And I've heard that stings hurt. I've never experienced it before, but because of that, all those internalized ideas create a snap reaction where I just need to move. I need to swat it away, and you start wanting to move. And meditation gets you so that
blocks it all out.
It turns down the volume on those feelings or thoughts that get you to react.
Okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, you're just, in some ways, you're blocking everything out. This is a question that I'm sure everyone wants to ask, is because you were talking about how, you meditate every day, like an hour, 3-hour sessions, or, basically a long time.
Yeah.
And I know I've asked you this before too, where in any of the sessions did you pass out? And then I know pass out meaning like fell asleep. And because I know you explained to me how they kind of have a schedule that you keep up, such as waking up at a certain time and then, eating at a certain time. So can you take me through that?
Yeah, so they have a pretty set schedule where like you wake up at like 4:30 in the morning. No, sorry, 4, and then you start meditating for 2 hours from 4:30. Self meditation in your own room, or or if you have a designated spot they give you, and you're basically your own teacher, your own hall monitor, if you want to call it. So you have to be responsible for yourself.
Yeah, but if you wake up that early, you
if
have.
you wake up, if you wake up that early,
Yeah.
and you sit on your butt pad,
Yeah.
and you meditate for 15 minutes, and you're not like, oh yeah, this doesn't feel good. Oh well, no one's checking up on me, so I'm just gonna hop back into bed because your bed's just right there because you're in your sleeping quarters.
And you do that?
And I did that, I think, a couple times, but that was much more towards the initial few sessions,
Okay.
Initial first couple of days,
Okay.
where I might meditate for like half an hour, and then once I started feeling the pain and the discomfort, I'm like, nah, I'll just wait till the actual 3 sessions
Okay.
where we're doing the group meditation, where I actually literally have to be butt stuck on the cushion for the full hour.
You can still fall asleep then.
It's harder. You could, but it's just harder because the point about sitting on the cushion and sitting in a cross-legged position on the cushion is that it actually it makes it less easy for you to fall asleep. Whereas like if you're sitting in a chair or against a wall or some sort of body support, then you can easily just knock out. And so it is harder compared to sitting on the cushion and staying glued to the cushion.
So you were pretty much, oh man, that's pretty hard to do. You're so kind of alert even during the whole time.
Yeah. So basically in the morning it was like a 4:30 4:30 to 6:30 self meditation in your own time, and then throughout the day it would be like from I think 8 to 9 a.m. would be the group meditations in the group hall, the Dharma hall, and that's when your butt's glued to the and in a sense you're held accountable because the teacher's there. So 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. is the first 1 hour session. 2:30 to 3:30 is the second session, and 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. is the third session of the day with the teacher. And each one of those times is glued to your, and you're being monitored
with like other people,
in the room, and all that stuff. But, and then sprinkled in between that are the maybe 2-hour self meditation sessions, where ultimately, if you do want to go back into your bed and sleep, or you want to go out into the field and into the field and like walk around the school path.
Oh, you can do
to
that?
Get some. You could.
Okay, cool.
But the idea is that you monitor yourself and you go. You try to stick to your butt to the pad during those kind of self meditation sessions, but ultimately you can kind of do whatever you want or do what you want. But they recommend you stick your butt to the pad.
Basically, it's like going to college. You stay in a dorm room and then you just go to class, basically.
Yeah, basically.
Because because you even told me that they feed you like twice a day, or
they feed you twice a day, so breakfast and lunch. But they recommend that, especially they have something called new students and old students.
Okay.
So like new students is once you've completed a 10-day course, you're no longer a new student. Then you become an old student. But the new students, because they're not used to the entire way everything works, they might be used to 3 meals a day. And so if that's the case, removing dinner from the meal from their meal plan might be a little too extreme. But they also know that in general, when you go into a meditation session, and you have a food comas typically happen, I guess, because you've eaten to your max and all the blood's going to your stomach to digest, so none of it's in your brain. And so when you go in, you're just kind of like drowsy, and you're like, you just like don't want to do anything. Yeah. So that affects your meditation. So for them, they serve you a vegetarian meal I think because vegetables are just easier to digest than meat.
Yes.
It takes less digestion energy.
Yes.
So that's the reason why it's vegetarian meals. And then during dinner time, before the 6 to 7 p.m. meditation, for new students, they might allow you to maybe eat some light fruit and have some tea. But for old students, they'll just say tea and no food. So once you, because you already dipped your feet in the water after the first, the new students first 10-day thing, then repeat students that come back afterwards, subsequent old students, then they already know, know the drum roll. So they don't need, they have the expectation that they won't have dinner.
But that sounds rough though, just because you can't have dinner, and because you even told me before that the first couple of nights you're struggling to sleep and you're craving pho.
Even the by the 9th night and the 10th night, I was still having the craving for food, but because you gain that equanimity, it's no longer as strong, or it's more manageable.
Okay.
It's more manageable with your body. You're like, all right, cool. Again, it's just another sensation, just like the pain in my body, and it's impermanent. It's not going to always be. I'll get over it. It's just like you always think like, oh, in like a life event, oh, my life's over. No, this is just a temporary setback. Yeah. But when you sleep it off and you wake up tomorrow, you're still going to be here. Yeah. It's just temporarily, this sucks. I scraped my knee or something didn't go according to plan. Yeah. And you get over it because it's impermanent. And the whole idea of Buddhism is to understand that there's impermanence. Yeah. And how to live a harmonious and equanimous life in spite of the fact of impermanence, and to actually appreciate and be compassionate with how life and nature and the way every existence is impermanent. And those are the aspects that you have gained through this course, or you've always kind of known it? I would say that this course reiterated those things to me because like I said, I've been on a spiritual search for the past 7 years, and it led me into Buddhism. Mm-hmm. But like in terms of like all the books and Buddhism and different temples and stuff I've gone to, it's all basically bits and pieces of puzzles. Like I'll read Mark Manson, I'll read Jordan Peterson, I'll even listen to like Joe Rogan, Sam Harris, all those things. Yeah, yeah. But each thing and all the books and self-help stuff that you read and Buddhism books, they're all bits and pieces of puzzles, the entire picture, where when you have a culminating life event like maybe this Vipassana session where it repeats those ideas, those separated ideas, but distills it and glues them together into a cohesive picture, that all of a sudden, all that stuff that you read all of a sudden makes sense. It turns into like as an example, like music. Yeah. Like when you hear a song, it's just a bunch of words that you've heard before, but they rearranged it in a in a way, and adding a melody to it, where all of a sudden you feel it, and when you feel it, it gives you that experience. Yeah. Which I guess what leads to wisdom. Yeah, that's something you mentioned before, where when you're just reading all these different books and listening to all these different podcasts, they're there for knowledge, learning, knowledge and facts, but they're not put together into like a recipe that you're actually eating and tasting. Then they're just facts and knowledge. Like it's like Jeopardy. You just have a bunch of stuff to recite, but where does it meet experience? When it meets experience and you actually experience what that song is talking about, or what that book is talking about, then that turns into wisdom. Okay. No, I'm excited because it's the same as, if me just sitting here listening to your experience with the course,
I mean, it's always gonna be hard for me to really truly understand because I, haven't dived deep and really experienced it. So I'm listening and it's fascinating, but
Yeah.
but I don't have the wisdom like what you said because
you having actually walked the path
Yeah.
yourself,
Yeah.
ultimately that's the thing. If you hear all this stuff, but there's that what the Bruce Lee saying of knowing is not enough, you
Yeah.
must apply.
Apply.
Willing is not enough, you must do.
Yeah.
That's where knowledge meets action,
Mhm.
which equals wisdom. You have to be wise. You can't just, World War II, I think we were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
You could read a bunch about wars and like,
Yeah.
oh, why war is not good. But that's reading in a textbook. Unless if you actually experience living through a war, realizing the damage of bombs going off, food shortages,
Yeah.
poverty,
Yeah.
espionage, all
Yeah.
that stuff, and not being able to physically trust
Yeah.
someone and being in literal life or
Yeah.
death situations, you won't know, and you're bound to repeat that because that's why whenever your parents tell you, oh, the stove's hot, what's hot? I don't know. Well, now, okay, let's put your finger on the stove.
You're right.
That's what hot is.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
And that's where wisdom kicks in because you experienced it.
Yeah. And if I touch it, it'll hurt me and it's gonna feel
But
painful.
what's hurt? Yeah, what's hurt?
Yeah.
Oh, this is hurt. Now put your finger on that thing, but not for too long, otherwise you'll lose your finger or whatever.
Yeah.
Do some parents actually do that?
I mean, it's a form of training in a sense.
And then in a way, not to that extreme, but
Sure.
Sometimes it's necessary. Like I'll give you an example. Like they say a needle.
Mm-hmm.
You have a needle, and you're like, oh, don't touch that needle because it's gonna hurt.
Mm-hmm.
It might be helpful for you to actually get the needle and poke the child.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much in the sense to actually make them bleed, but enough to prick them.
Mm-hmm.
And when they feel that sense snap
Mm-hmm.
reaction, then they'll know what you mean by hurt. Oh, now I experienced hurt.
Yeah.
Now I know what being hurt means.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't like that. I had an adverse reaction. And so now when dad says hurt, because now I trust him. So whenever he says don't do that because it hurts, then I'll know that guide.
Yeah.
And I better be able to understand those guardrails.
No, yeah, that makes sense because it's a similar, because you were telling me this before too. It was similar to, in a sense, where if you're trying to describe, let's say, to a blind person like the color red, well, they never seen red before. They don't know.
They
don't
can't
know.
see.
Yeah. So when you say red, it's like, well, what's red? What's that color? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Kind of the same idea where if they have never truly experienced it or seen it or any of that, when you're describing it to them, they're just gonna be confused.
Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, I'm guessing this course kind of helped you refine a little bit of all the different books or ideas that you've accumulated, and then now you're able to find
glue it together into like an image or a cohesive understanding, but not only more understanding through actually having experienced it.
And of course, now with that experience, guessing you're starting to see the picture clearer.
See the picture more clearly.
Okay.
Yeah, more clearly, but now you end up realizing that you need to maintain practice because the path until you're dead, the path is never finished. You still need to continue walking on it and exploring it through action and experience it for yourself. The path of continuing along the path of truth, I guess. Yeah.
Now, what's the next steps then to maintain, walking the path?
Daily meditation. So they recommend, well, once you're done with the course, meditate 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's just the idea is to get you to become more sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
Because meditation and Buddhism, at the end of the day, it's to make you more sensitive as a person. I know sometimes, like in society in general, the idea about sensitivity sometimes doesn't seem like it's a very. Sometimes it can be said that it's not a very macho thing. Oh, you're too sensitive.
Yeah, yeah.
But in actuality, sensitivity is good because sensitivity leads to wisdom.
Yeah.
You know, if you, like as an example, when you smoke weed and you drink alcohol and things like that, they're intoxicants to get you to numb your mind so that you become less sensitive. You become inebriated so that you can go talk to that girl. So you don't feel as self-confident, as self-conscious.
Yeah.
And that's the part where, although you're less self-conscious, because you're less conscious, you may also do stupid things.
Yeah.
And that's the part where you might end up screaming, like you might start like grabbing a girl's butt, or you might start saying like sexist comments or things like that aren't sensitive. Well, it's not sensitive because you've desensitized yourself with alcohol or weed or whatever it is, or some sort of intoxicant. So, like again with society and how it's like, oh, as a man, at least from my experience, like as a man, you're being told like, oh, don't be so sensitive. Like, why they said something and you didn't like it, so don't be so sensitive. Just man up. Just suck it up and deal with it. In a way, it is. That's what meditation does. It's not that it makes you less sensitive.
Mm.
It makes you more sensitive, but less reactionary. That is the key. That's different. Mm-hmm. You're more sensitive and less reactionary because of your wisdom. Because you experienced it, you become a wiser example, a wiser leader. Because when you're sensitive and you're leading people, you end up realizing that, hey, what I'm doing is hurting this person or being insensitive, and this person's saying I need help. But rather than shouting at them like, oh, you're just weak or whatever, no, this person's telling me they need help. And so what can I do to serve them? What can I do to modify what I'm doing to better understand them so that I can truly get them to be better servers themselves? And that's to me, the key shift that I'm getting from this Vipassana meditation.
Okay, no, that's cool. I mean, you've always talked about helping the community in some way.
Or meaning of life, like understanding why you do what you do.
Yeah, right.
By asking yourself that question, that's the introspection that gets you to not just do anything just for pleasure's sake.
Yeah.
To get sensations that you like and push away sensations that you don't like. But to get the good sensations and the bad sensations and realize that you need a mixture, a balance of both in order to make music or
do whatever.
Anything in life and experience life. Because experience is a balance of pleasure and pain.
That's good. That's a good way. That's a nice way to put it.
I mean, that's what music is. It's like Buddha's idea is like strumming a guitar string. If you strum it too hard, it'll snap. If you strum it too lightly, you won't hear anything. But that balance of the highs and lows is when you actually hear melody, and that is what each individual's life story and all that stuff is experiences. And that's where you make music, by writing the good and the bad in a balanced way.
Nice. And would you say that you'll go back and take this course again?
Definitely, because you
did mention about how they have like a 20-day course, a 30-day, like different levels or different tiers.
Yeah, because I think introspection is, you're always doing a gut check on yourself. And when you do a gut check, like you test information, knowledge that you're just constantly testing, constantly testing knowledge that you just heard or you heard in your past, and putting into action and practice what you just heard, and then experiencing whether or not that's actually true or not. Because then you can immediately tell, is it true based off of my actual experience, which is the interaction between my mind and my body and the sensation in between that relationship. And if it comes to true, then keep walking, keep listening. If it's no longer true, then get off your cushion and go find something else. Yeah. But as long as it continues to remain true, then keep walking this path and see where the rabbit hole goes.
Okay. And that's exactly what
that's exactly what this is. It's sure. But in terms of like going back to this Buddha's ideas about life in general, he's not blind faith. Yeah. It's just, this is what I'm telling you, what my path was that worked for me, and you can test it, question it. Don't just question it off of blind faith, like faith in a god or something like that, or rituals or whatever. But test it and experience it for yourself. Then you know truly, wisdom-wise, whether or not this is good. And when you are able to do that, that's when you're able to experience life in a much more truly balanced way and really truly feel it. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you're truly feeling the sensations. You're living life by always constantly being aware of the sensations of life.
To add it on is that we, of course, not everyone is open or receptive to, let's say, for this course specifically, to try out and see how it is. Maybe it's like what you said, it's not for everyone, right? I mean, everyone's path is different. I mean, it's the same as like trying to help someone, who has depression, but, they're not really open-minded to accept help, or this is kind of the same deal.
Yeah.
Because I think they have to be pretty opening their mind up in order to even having the full experience, with this course. Because let's say if I just go in and just, okay, whatever, I'll just go in and just do it, just sit there, but you're not really fully engaged, and it's kind of a waste.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I guess you as an individual
have to decide, right?
You ultimately have to make that decision, and that's the ultimate truth that each individual has to reach themselves. Because ultimately, you are your own leader. Yeah. At the end of the day, everything outside of your body is not going to be able to get you to do what you need to do. They can maybe people can take advantage of your body, but your mind is ultimately in your control. So if you pollute it with negative thoughts, positive thoughts, or nourish it with positive thoughts, pollute it with negative thoughts, then ultimately that's your control. And that's where, if you're because that's the thing, in my spiritual journey, in my like crashing moment, I guess you could say, life crashing moment, I went down the path of depression, anxiety, to the extreme,
addiction,
suicidal.
Yeah.
Like, luckily I didn't do anything. It was just more like, I became nihilistic, and life has just no color, no taste, no sensation. Everything's just numb. Why do I want to get out of bed today? But luckily, something allowed me within myself to hold on and not do something stupid. But meditation got me to start slowly analyzing the sensations and realizing that the sensations are sensations, but it's my mental interpretation of those sensations that gets me to either feel good or bad, depressed or anxious. Yeah, and it's all in my head. At the end of the day, it's all in my head. So when I interact with someone, like we were talking about earlier, like the bully that you knew when you were 5, and you encounter them 20 years later, it's your sticky mental image of that individual back then, and who you thought you were back then, that all of a sudden brings back that that sticky sensation of, oh, I don't like this, and you're becoming averse to it. And then when you see that person, all of a sudden you get that like your heart drop feeling inside your gut, and when you see them now, and then all of a sudden you don't feel good, and you feel up and down, and you get like your sensations make, because your mind, you don't have control of your mind, your mental faculties, the sensations drive you, take you for a spin, and so you have to get yourself to want to sit down and do this 10-day course, Vipassana course. You have to get yourself there.
Yeah, no one's gonna do it for you.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the tough thing for most people, right? Because we always tend to make excuses and tell ourselves, oh, well, I don't have time, I have work, I have this and that. I mean, while it's true, well, if you really want to do something, then you'll find a way to do it. Because you even told me that you met a couple of people there at the retreat. You were saying that there was this one, Vietnamese guy who was, had a full-time job at like a dealership, like doing finance, but then, he kind of quit that and
he just
went all out.
And just went all out.
Yeah.
Meditation 3 hours in the morning,
yeah,
which is crazy, and then 1 hour at night, and like every day, non-stop commitment.
Yeah,
to do that, just like whoa.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. So that kind of tells me that some people really want to do something, then they'll find a way, right?
I mean, but that's the commitment that you have to get yourself to.
Yeah.
And the ultimately the mental control that you have to get yourself to be able to commit to something and not easily change your path
right.
all the time. Because if you always change your path, you have no direction, no rudder. You're just going around in circles.
But I mean, this is really cool though, just because I've known you since high school, and just seeing that transformation, that you're going through is, to me, is pretty eye popping, to be honest, because you weren't really quite like that before in high school, and even after that, I mean, yeah. So it's just kind of crazy how it went from that, and it's a good thing though. It's a good thing.
I was heavily. What I didn't realize was I was heavily ego driven. Yeah, ego driven all throughout my 20s, even into like my 30s, and it still comes out.
Yeah.
But it's not so much to say that it's completely gone,
mm-hmm.
but to realize that it's there and know that to have it is it's normal, but to know when to utilize it in the balance of individuality versus community, which is kind of it goes into Eastern philosophy and like the yin and the yang, on and off, up and down. You can't have up without down. Like you have to have opposites. You have to have communism in order to have democracy. There's benefits of both. But you can't have one without the other. You can't have ups without downs. Otherwise, you don't have music. Otherwise, the string doesn't resonate.
Yeah. I mean, we touched upon a little bit about that too earlier today. Yeah, there's just a lot of topics that we actually we talked about throughout the year, and this serves like so many different parts too, not just one.
And one thing that I think, because as you go through life and you start building on the example that I like to use is like a tree. When the tree is initially growing and the primary initial roots
mm-hmm.
are being stretched out from the seed form in the soil, that primary root is, say for instance, what you learn when you're a child,
mm-hmm.
first 5 to 7 years. That primary root is going to be there, and then all the secondary roots and all the things that branch out from that root are going to branch out from that core root. So if that core root fundamentally is messed up or not understood in the right way, then everything you build on top of that is going to be distorted, and it's not going to be healthy. So if you end up not doing self-reflection at that early of an age, or being cultivated in the right way through wisdom and trial and error and things like that, and teaching the child through friendship experience, then by the time that child turns into their 20s and 30s and they don't realize that their internal mental roots are damaged,
basically,
then they're going to build off of those damaged roots, and the relationships that they have, the way that they produce fruits for their community, they're going to be toxic fruits, and the community is going to eat those toxic fruits, and the community is going to continue.
You're basically poison.
You're basically poison, and that's the reason why mental self-reflection and things like meditation and being able to get to a person, a child, before they reach adult age, to get them to understand this mental self-reflection through things like meditation is so important at such an early age, because then you get to the whole can't teach an old dog new tricks, because they've already ingrained themselves the old habits. Mm-hmm. That's the reason why when you try to teach an old person meditation, they're like, oh, I've already lived my life. This meditation stuff that you're teaching me now, what are you talking about? Like, man, you're crazy.
Right.
You know? But when you teach them at a much younger age, when they haven't grown those bad roots into the soil yet of their mind, then you have the right opportunity, the better timing opportunity to cultivate those primary roots.
I mean, essentially, you can even call it like, you know, bad habits, right? Not just bad roots, but you're developing bad habits, and if you don't change it or correct them, you're always going to be doing the same thing or thinking the same way, if anything.
Yeah. And then that whole habit of thinking about life in a unified or divisive manner. If you, from the early age, are, given an environment where life is competition and that's it, and you take it to an absolute level, then everything you do, every way that you see as success in life is competition.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't end up realizing that at the end of the day, there's competition and unity. There's a balance between individualism and community, and you need to have the balance between both in order to truly live life in a balance and survive, really survive. Long term.
No, I agree. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how you progress as human beings, doing enough, like we said, mental reflection and really analyze, right? Which actually is a good thing now, because with the pandemic, I'm guessing most people, or really a lot of people, probably have enough free time to be at home and hopefully going through the reflection stages. But of course, I don't know. That's a guess, but I think this is like the best time to do it. All right, folks, we're gonna wrap it up here. For anyone who's listening, you can do more research about it, or you can probably ask Alvin here. I mean, he has plenty of experience.
Yeah. Quickly, if you're interested in the Vipassana thing, the retreat, you can go to Dhamma, DHAMMA.org, and there's like 200 centers around the world, supposedly, or getting close to 200.
Yeah.
But due to COVID right now, some of them or maybe even all of them are all shut down until further notice. But I would highly recommend you going, and if you can sit through 10 days, go do it, because it is really, to me, profound on how it can, if you have depression, anxiety, even like suicide or whatever the heck it is, rather than taking like mind-numbing medications. Although I'm not saying that it's not something you should take, but if you really ultimately need it, this doesn't take medication. It's meditation. So in a way, it's using yourself and better understanding your interaction with your sensations. Anyway, go to Dhamma.org.
Yeah, and to wrap it up on, or to piggyback on what Alvin just said, and for those who maybe have some financial troubles, this course, as I know, is really more kind of like what, charity based or
Oh yeah,
donation
yeah, yeah.
based. So
Yeah, the course in itself doesn't require any money up front.
okay.
You don't have to. Yeah, if you go to the course and you find that it's not something that you find of value, or you know what, I want to try to take this meditation course home, practice it, and see what the results are. And if I see results, then in the future it has genuinely benefited me, then I might do some donations in the future. But the first course, it doesn't cost you anything, so you can just go, and the food's provided. You just need to be committed
Yes.
to sitting your butt on that cushion
Yep.
and meditating and doing nothing but meditating.
Yep. So I mean, that sounds pretty good to me. I mean, they feed you and living, so come on, what's not to like? Anyways, all right, we'll have to wrap it up. Next time I'll be talking about probably more about mental health issue with another good friend of mine. But stay tuned for that.